FoodGrads. Really excited to have our friends from FGF Brands with us today, Jason and Saeid. I have some questions, but I think first of all, it would be awesome if we could go one at a time and you just sort of talk us through your career progression, how you started, how you decided to choose a career in the food and beverage industry. If that was a choice, lots of people pivot and end up in the industry. So really curious to hear your own stories. And I guess, Saeid, you're ahead on my screen, so maybe you want to go first?
Sure, no problem. Okay, as you said, my name is Saeid. I am Director of Quality and Food Safety and Customer Care for FGF Canada. I have Bachelor in Animal Science, and obviously my major was related to kind of food. So all my career, I've been involved in food manufacturing for almost 30 years in 3 different continents. I have master in Greenbelt. I'm the first BRC professional across the globe. I've done any sort of food safety and quality training related to food industry like HACCP, BRC, SQF. Uh, as I said, this is my path. When I started studying at university, I knew that I'm going to be in food industry, and that was it. So I've been in food, and I will be in food till my end of my career.
And you came to FGF. How did that happen? Like when you started off, your
Actually,
career
I
path?
came to Canada around 16 years ago. Uh, FGF is my second job. The first job that I had, the business was going down, so I thought that okay, I have to start looking for a job. Then I was a little bit more picky because it was my second job in Canada, so I had the opportunity to look for what I really want to do, and I found FGF is a very fast growing company, so I came to FGF. My first job was QA supervisor at one of our facilities, 1295. Then throughout last 11 years, I've been promoted to different positions. From QA supervisor, I became food safety and audit manager. This is a LinkedIn title. We don't use manager title at FGF. Then after that, I promoted to QA program lead, which is equivalent to QA manager, QA corporate manager. And after that, I got the director position.
And what did you do in order to secure so many promotions? I mean, how do you think you conducted yourself? And what advice would you give to students and grads that are interested in, perhaps coming in at the entry level in a QA, perhaps a QA technician role or QC technician? How would you advise them to progress like you have?
Actually, as we all know, the whole food industry is changing every day. The requirements is changing. People are more cautious about what they are eating. Everything about science is improving. There are lots of new practices. You have to keep yourself updated constantly in order to grow. And I think FGF was one of the best place for me to accomplish that goal, because they provide you with all resources. FGF is really, really, really good. As I said, I've been in food manufacturing for last 30 years and in 3 different continents. So I can, with confidence, I can say it's very rare any manufacturing provide that much training and that much support to its team member to grow. So when I came to FGF, I had this opportunity. I've been through, I would say, at least 15 relevant to food safety and quality training, and in order to be successful in my role and grow and be better, I needed all those training, which was provided by FGF.
So I guess as long as you're asking for it, you sort of communicate that that's your goal to move up in the company. You're saying that that those opportunities were there for you.
Yes, of course. at FGF, there's always opportunity. You don't see anyone who wants to grow and cannot grow at FGF. The company is a very, very fast growing company, and they love you to be aggressive. They love you to learn more, and they love people who put lots of effort to grow, and they provide you with all the resources, which, as I said, this was the best place for me to work on and stay.
And
Awesome.
Saeid, if I could jump in as
Yeah.
well. So even in addition to Saeid growing, Saeid, can you talk about other people in the quality team that started as let's say a QA tech and have moved up? Essentially, almost all of our program leaders are individuals who started as QA techs and who became the team leader, who became the manager. Are there some examples, Saeid, you want to share?
Of course, we have lots. Actually, all my team members, they started as a QA tech. I can use names: Manpreet, Nicole, Neil. They started as a QA tech, then they become QA lead and the QA program lead or food safety and audit manager. And we promote homegrown talent, and there is a specific program which is for homegrown talent. I think even Apex team has the same thing. They provide with all the resources for people who wants to grow, and there are different programs: Unleash Your Potential, Homegrown Talent Program. They give you the opportunity to get where you want if you want to grow.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to go over to your colleague now, Jason. Can you do the same and kind of give us an overview of your background and experience and how you came to be at FGF?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Jason Brown, and I lead the operational excellence team, specifically the manufacturing subgroup of the OPEX team. I started at FGF 9 years ago. I spent my whole career here. So I studied mechanical engineering and management at McMaster University, graduated in 2013, and FGF was my first job coming out of school. And as we were discussing before this interview started, I didn't really know I was going to end up in the food industry. I had no idea. I was studying mechanical engineering. I was calculating stress and strain on beams, when a load is being applied, and I didn't really know exactly where I was going to end up. And then it just so happened that I basically had gone through a sort of an interview process with a consulting company that did a lot of consulting in food industry, and they did a lot of continuous improvement, and that got me really excited about it. And they are the ones who actually connected me with FGF, saying, hey, there's this company that's looking to hire some great, young grads. At the time, FGF only had 2 facilities. Are you interested? I said, absolutely. And that's where I connected with some of the leadership team here at FGF and started as a continuous improvement engineer. And at the time, we had 2 facilities, and the types of projects that I was working on was all about improving efficiencies of the manufacturing lines, right? Looking to reduce waste, reducing downtime, reducing non-value-added labor, and utilizing that labor in more value-added positions. And it was a wonderful experience. And then after a couple of years, it was excellent timing as well. FGF, with great leadership and a great vision and great products, was the company was growing, was taking market share from other organizations. And so as the company was growing, we were building the continuous improvement team. And that was a wonderful opportunity for me to have a chance to sort of mentor some of the new and train some of the new CIs that were hiring. And that eventually just naturally progressed into me taking on a team leader role in the CI team, and then moving into a manager role in the CI team. And now the CI team has basically joined forces with a few other continuous improvement teams, and we're now the operational excellence team. And I lead the manufacturing subgroup within that team. And the OPEX team also has a maintenance and reliability subgroup, and it also has a quality and sanitation. It's been an absolutely amazing journey these last 9 years. Have an opportunity to work with tons of amazing people like Saeid. And the great thing about operational excellence, or CI, right, continuous improvement, a lot of people use those names interchangeably, is you have the ability to work with individuals across the organization. So you're very closely working with the production teams because we are a manufacturing company, and that's something to be really proud of. And so obviously a big focus needs to be improving our manufacturing processes. And to do that, you work with individuals from maintenance, from quality, from production, from supply chain. And that's been an absolutely amazing journey.
So what does your day look like? It's interesting because I do talk to a lot of students and grads, and when they're just starting out, they hear job titles, but they really want to understand, like, what do? You wake up in the morning, you take a shower, you get dressed, you go to work, maybe you go to a home office, maybe you are going to the facility. But what's your day look like? Maybe Jason, you could go first, and then Saeid, we go to you.
So I'll give two examples. I'll say what does a day look like for a continuous improvement engineer? Because that's the majority of our team. We've got 21 team members right now. And a lot, like essentially the model is 1 to 2 continuous improvement engineers at every single facility. Okay. And in the FGF network, that means 7 facilities right now. But with the Weston Foods acquisition, obviously it's growing, it's growing even more. But a day generally looks like for a continuous improvement engineer is that you are based at a manufacturing plant. And let's say you have a little desk, and that's in the production office, because you're very closely working with the production team, and that's where the quality team for that plant sits. That's where your maintenance team at that plant sits, right? So you are part of that team. And what a day would look like in FGF world for a continuous improvement engineer is there's a mixture of sort of some daily routine activities as well as looking at longer term projects. So an example of a daily routine activity would be, hey, there are some reports that we send out that takes a few minutes every day, and that helps provide visibility on yesterday's performance. So what was our output like for yesterday? Okay, how many pieces per hour did we hit on average, or how many pans per minute did we hit? And let's say we hit a certain number that led to an efficiency of 82%. So then you're also collecting data from different resources to say, hey, where was that opportunity, that 18% of lost opportunity? What contributed to those losses? That could be either downtime. It could be that we weren't running at the optimal speeds. It could be that waste was contributing to it, or rework as well. And so part of the routine is, communicating performance metrics and KPIs about the previous day, and that helps provide visibility to the leadership team. Then the team would also be working on, let's say, longer term projects, which are driven from the data. So as an example, one manufacturing line is performing worse than the others. It has a higher waste than the other lines on average. That's going to be the area we're going to focus. And we are going to help to quantify, with the support of maybe the finance team, to say, hey, what is the financial impact if we were able to reduce the waste on this line down from 4.5% down to 2%, which is, meeting our company target. And we say, oh, wow, that's a significant, financial impact. We're going to prioritize this as a project. And then the OpEx engineer or CI engineer works with a team made up of production team members, of maintenance, of quality, to basically tackle that issue. And we at FGF like to follow Lean Six Sigma, methodology. So following like lean manufacturing principles or Six Sigma principles. Some of you may have heard of the DMAIC approach: define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. And that's basically a problem-solving methodology to help eliminate whatever problem you're trying to solve. So that's basically my long answer for what a day in the life of an OpEx engineer looks like. They're spending a lot of time on the floor. That's where you're getting the majority of your learning. You're not going to learn from sitting at your computer on Excel all day. Yes, there's a portion of your day, maybe let's say 10%, 15% of your day, you might need to do some Excel analysis and whatnot. And that's great. That's very valuable. But the majority of your learning is going to happen on the manufacturing floor, where the action is really happening. That's where you're going to build relationships with individuals on the production lines who actually understand, who are working on the machines every day, because they are your best allies. They know what's going on. They have amazing ideas and solutions. And your job as an OpEx engineer is to help facilitate the brainstorming sessions, is to help break down barriers, is to help connect the dots, so get feedback from the team and make it happen. So that's basically kind of like a day in the life of an OpEx engineer. And then a day in the life of, let's say, a team leader. So if you're supporting and leading a team, or if you're a director and you're supporting multiple teams, your day transitions a little bit. You're not quite as hands-on in terms of like, okay, we're working with the team to problem solve. But what you're doing instead is you're doing more training, you're doing more mentoring, and to really add the most value as a leader, in my opinion, is that you need to have gone through the various steps. right? So that like I've lived through that experience, and I know, guess what? If you try to implement a solution and you don't get the team members buy-in before you do that, you're going to run into trouble down the line because the improvement that you're trying to make isn't sustainable. So as a leader, you're really trying to mentor your team, to guide them, to train them. And of course, you're involved in other elements such as interviewing team members, and that gives you a really well-rounded experience.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And Saeid, what about your role? Sort of, how would you describe it to someone that knows nothing about, food safety and quality, and they say, what do you do when you get to work each morning?
Actually, for quality and food safety is a little bit probably more complicated because to make the longer story short, R&D makes a product based on customer need or based on what we think it meet the customer requirements. Then they hand it out to operation. Then after handing it out to operation, QA is to make sure that everything that we are making is meeting exactly customer requirement A. Compliance part, which is related to government regulation, FDA, CFIA, or any country of sale. And also we have to make sure that all the food safety aspect of the product has been met. So we kind of nosy to go to every single department when it comes. I think when it comes to the QA, it's the only department who knows exactly what the other departments are doing, and sometimes even they develop the SOP for them. They make sure that they are following what they are supposed to from A to Z. Anything that comes to the operation part has to be passed through QA and food safety. Anything you name it. If you want to buy even, I don't know, a scraper, if you want to buy a pill, if you want to buy a bean, it has to be, for example, food contact approved. When it comes to the raw material, it meets all the government or regulatory requirements, or if it's compliance with customer requirements. That's one part of the job. Then the other part of the job is taking care of customers' need after the product is out, if there is any customer concern or customer complaint. So the actual job of the QA is very. So you can go to sanitation from QA, you can go to even OPEX team, you can go to maintenance team, you can go to operation team and tell them, okay, this is not what we are doing, this is what you have to do. You have to follow these processes step, or if you are not following these processes step, you have to correct them. So to answer your question about day-to-day activity, as I said, there are different layers from QA tech, QA lead, QA program lead, which each of them give a specific guideline to the lower layers. For example, when it comes to the QA lead supports 6 QA technicians at the facility, which each of them are responsible to check the lines for 2 lines. So if there is any issue happening in each line, the QA lead is to make sure that the product is safe to be sent out, or if there is any support for making a decision in some certain layer, that person makes the decision, or if it not, comes to the second layer, which is QA program lead, and so on comes to me. For me, basically, my job is mentoring the team and giving them the technical support as well as leadership support. So making sure that the team are doing what they're supposed to do. If there is any ambiguity about any regulation, I give them proper guidelines, and when it comes to any risk assessment, I walk them through any potential risk for any issue that is happening, and so on.
Okay, so what's the best part, Saeid, while you're there? What's the most enjoyable, best part of your job, would you say?
The best part is my every day is different, so you never get bored. So every day you face something new, and you deal with that's the main interesting part from my point of view. The second part is, as I said, QA deals with every single department, so the interaction with people, to me it's enjoyable. I like to communicate with people when we were going through the COVID, I hated working from home. And I think I barely work from home because I want to come to work. I like to see people. I like to talk to people. So when it comes to the QA department, you have to be involved with every single activity at the manufacturing site. Whoever is doing anything, you have to know. You have to make sure that it's compliance with the regulation. You have to make sure that it's done properly. So the interaction with people, that's another part of enjoyable uh, part of the job, actually.
And Jason, what about you? What's your favorite part of your job if you were to sort of highlight something?
Great question. One thing that I've learned and that we've learned at FGF is that each person has different personality traits, right? We're all a blend of different, personality characteristics, but sometimes we have different powerful traits. So as an example, for me, I'm more of a people person is what I've learned through various self-assessments. And so one thing, and then reflecting, I'm like, oh, that does make sense. So for me, what I'm really passionate about is having a day where I'm working with other people, like Saeid mentioned, and really making an impact. So if I'm able to work with an operator on the line and work with a team member, and we're able to make a positive improvement, those are the kind of days that I feel amazing, and it was absolutely incredible. And I like seeing the impact of my work as well. So for me, and that's what's wonderful about being in OpEx, is that you're constantly given opportunities like that, whether it's small projects that are affecting one facility, or if you're looking at more of kind of a corporate project that affects many facilities. I really love working with other people and making an impact. Another thing for me is one of my hobbies. I love tinkering with my hands. I love small engines, so I've refurbished 2 really old motorcycles from the 60s and 70s. That's one of my hobbies I love to do outside of work. So anytime that I'm, interacting with machines as well, and I'm studying, robotics and whatnot, that's an area that just absolutely amazes me. So for me, it's a combination of people and really cool equipment and machines that get me really excited.
Mm-hmm. It's cool that you mentioned robotics and automation. I think there's often some misconceptions about the industry in general, just how advanced we are now, how it's changed. I think people conjure up pictures of hairnets and factories, and they don't sort of think about how the industry has changed over the years. How would you address that? What would you say are the biggest misconceptions about the industry in general?
Well, FGF is all I've known, so I can't speak for the industry as a whole. But what I can say for sure is that at FGF, with the owners that we have, they're thinking long-term and they want to invest. And basically one of the mottos that we go by, and you'll see it on the website, is we're the tech company that bakes, right? So we invest in technology. We partner with OEMs from all over the world. So as an example, we invest heavily in certain packaging robotics from Germany, from a company from Germany. We also buy big pieces of food manufacturing equipment from Italy and France as well. So we are trying to leverage the best equipment in the world, the most automated, to really create the factories of the future, is another term that you're going to hear Tejas, one of our owners, talk about. And so, at FGF, I think, you were absolutely right about hairnets. That's a food safety concern. And, and Saeid will catch you if you try to even step 1 inch into a plant without a hairnet or a beard net. But that's always part of manufacturing, to have good manufacturing practices. But in addition to that, it's so much more. There's equipment, there's processes, it's high speed. It's because that's the way of the future. You have to be competitive. You have to create high quality products at an affordable price. So you can't just be producing, 1 croissant every hour. The customer is not going to pay $75 for 1 croissant, right? That's not. And so that's kind of the magic that's what we have to be able to do, is we have to be able to produce really high quality products with really clean ingredients, because that's, as Saeid mentioned, that's the future. That's what people want to buy, and you have to make it at a fair price. So to make it at a fair price, that means you have to invest in automation. You have to invest in continuous improvement. You have to always try to improve the way you do things. because you'll be able to pass those savings on to the customer so that the customer feels like they're getting really good value. Wow, oh my gosh, this whole tub of mini croissants, it's only costing me $3.99, and you know what? I'm getting really good value out of this product.
So what's new? What's changed in the past few years? I know you've had an acquisition, but what's new at FGF? And maybe we can leave the three of us just chatting now. Have a sort of general conversation. What would, if someone was to say to you, what's going on at FGF? New products, new lines, as you mentioned. Jason, you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, what's new at FGF? Everything is new. So let me just name off a few, and Saeid, jump in, please, if I missed anything. So at FGF, because of the growth, we have a lot of new manufacturing plants going up. So as an example, we have a line right now where 2 lines were already commissioned. The 3rd line has been commissioned and has been running for a little while, but we're still looking to improve it, to keep ramping up and get output up. And the 4th line is under construction and is being commissioned right now at our newest facility. And our newest line. It's our highest speed sliced loaf line, most automated line, all different types of equipment. And so as we speak right now, we've got a bunch of different teams from R&D, from the engineering teams, from OpEx, from quality, from maintenance, or literally every team is involved in commissioning that line. And then as that plant is being commissioned, we've also got another building that's literally under construction right now. So the foundation is set. The framing is happening right now. So there's new plants being built. And you did mention it, a big part right now is integrating, 2 organizations, FGF being a young company, acquiring a 100-year-old company like Weston Foods, and really trying to leverage and share best practices both ways, right? So learn what has been working really well at Weston and taking that and spreading that. Those best practices across FGF and making that part of the standard, and vice versa as well. Hey, what are some of the things that we've been doing really well at FGF that we're able to share with the former Weston plants that we're all now one family at FGF, and it's an exciting journey. I've been here for 9 years. Every year has been an exciting year. And Saeid, please jump in. Has there ever been a boring year?
I would like to go back to your previous question. You asked me what I like the most about my job, and I said that my day-to-day is different. So this is exactly FGF. So when you ask what is new at FGF, every day is new. Yeah. So every day we go through something new. That's why FGF has been successful, because they never stop. The owners always say that we always look at ourselves as a startup company. We don't stay somewhere. We don't stick something, and we think long term. So that's why every day is different from a day before. Jason said it well. We are building a new facilities. We're going through the integration. We are commissioning new lines in our existing facilities. And again, we have a big continuous improvement team, which makes sure that we are not doing same thing every day, right? Mm-hmm. So always it's about the continuous improvement, and it's not about just the operation part. Jason talked about OpEx structure. They are involved in different sections, even sanitation. The sanitation team that we have at FGF, I would say by far is in a very, very different class from the other food manufacturing sites. Quality the same, operation is the same. We at FGF think long term, and we are an innovative company, and also we are a tech company that makes. So everything is new every day.
I love that phrase, because with where I sit with FoodGrads and careers now, sort of trying to attract young people into the industry. We're up against other industries that seem sexier and cooler, and people think of food industry, it certainly does conjure up certain images, or they think of food service and don't even consider the opportunities on the food processing side. So I guess that you mentioned that FGF was a startup, and you've grown, and as a startup you've bought, and you're a newer company that's bought an older company. a lot of conversations that I have, that we have, revolve around entrepreneur, like young people. There's lots of talk about, I want to become an entrepreneur. We actually have a mentorship session coming up tomorrow morning on that. I think that you can have an entrepreneurial spirit and still work for a larger organization. Jason, what would you say to that? At FGF, can you have that entrepreneurial spirit? Or, I mean, some people say, should you work for a small company? Should you work for a large company? A smaller, you'll wear more hats and you could be more entrepreneurial. Larger, you're more structured, more processes and procedures. So what would your answer be to that? Can you be entrepreneurial at FGF?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think aligning yourself with the vision of the company is important. So as an example, FGF as a company, no matter what size we are always going to be a startup at heart, because that's driven right from the ownership, Tejas and Ojas. That's what they started this company from scratch, with their dad's mentorship as well. And that's always been the spirit. So no matter what, FGF has that sort of startup mentality. And what does that mean? It means that a lot of us wear many different hats and we're pulled into many different areas. You'll never hear anyone here say, oh, that's not part of my job description. You know what I mean? Like that kind of like mentality. That doesn't really exist here at FGF. I can't speak for every other company, of course. But that's something that we really pride ourselves on. So absolutely, as an individual, you can absolutely want to be an entrepreneur and feel that connection, because that's one of the greatest strengths at FGF, is that we all feel the ownership over the company and the products like it's our own babies, right? So when we go into the stores, my wife will goes crazy every time we go to the grocery store, no matter what. I right away go to our products and I start looking and I remind her, hey, look, this was made on muffin line number 3. You see the date code, this was made on ML3 every single time. And she's like, I know, Jason, you told me this 100 times. I get it. But I'm like, no, you don't understand. That was made on muffin line number 3. So that pride, and you know what, that's not only me. I hear that across many team members from all different departments and all different areas. We're very proud of the products that we make. We're very proud of the company that we work for. We have some of the highest engagement scores in the entire industry, or I don't even know, because we do official, third-party engagement scores, very, very high engagement. And so there's that pride, there's that ownership. So we all feel like we are all running FGF, and we're all part of that ownership. So absolutely, you can definitely be part of a larger organization and still feel that pride that it's your baby. Saeid, please add anything. How do you feel?
I think one of the reasons is that the owners are very, very hands-on. You can't believe how much they are involved with every single part of the business. They go to the floor, they work with people, they know people by names. And when it comes, for example, to QA department, all the shift reports from my QA techs, 100-something shift reports, they just read every single of them, and we get response. That tells us that, okay, what we are doing is very, very valuable. It's very, very value added to the company. And as Jason said it very, very well, the whole family, our families are connected to FGF. It's not just us which are connected. My family is the same. My wife is very, very precise about FGF products, and she always talks good about FGF products when it comes to our friends and family and relative, and this is our pride.
It helps, doesn't it, when you're dealing with food? This is kind of slightly off subject, but my son, he's 16, he works for McDonald's, and after he joined, I thought he'll not eat McDonald's anymore because he'll see what goes on in the background, and and he'll be like, oh, I could never eat it. But that's not the case. He comes home, he eats there, he brings food home. He's like, it's very clean. He talks about the quality. And this is a 16-year-old, first job. So I can only imagine that pride, for yourselves in the company. It's great to hear, because it gives the consumer that confidence that if you care and you're feeding your families, then, we can have confidence buying the product too.
100%. And even as an example, every time I go into Costco, even though, I could go to the manufacturing plant that makes the mini naan, and and get some free samples and whatnot. It doesn't matter. Every time I'm in Costco and I walk by that section, I'm grabbing a pack of Stonefire mini naan because I'm going to pay full retail price for it because it's that good. My freezer is full of it, and I just we can't get enough. So absolutely, we're very proud of the products that we make, and that's the reason the company is successful. Is that you have to make good products. If you're not making good products, someone may buy it once, and then they're going to go with a different option later on, and you know what I mean. And your company's not going to be very successful. So it starts with the products. And the people and the culture, and then that's you keep growing from there.
And sometimes my relatives even they go to Costco or different stores and take pictures from the product. They are asking, they send me a picture. Is it your muffin? This is what you guys make.
Well, I mean, it's exactly that, and I think you have competition from products, but to go back to the people piece, same with companies. If you're not treated well, if you're not excited to go into work every day, and who's kidding who? Every day you're not kind of woohoo excitement. That's unrealistic. I think we all have moments, days, there's challenges that in every job, in every industry. But I think if it's like the majority of the time you're having fun, the majority of the time you're invested, then you're in the right role. And that leads me to another question. I think you kind of touched on it, Jason, but if you're an intern or a co-op student or somebody that's entered into the organization, sort of an entry-level role, what kind of projects would you be involved in potentially? That certainly, let's talk about interns and co-ops.
Sure. So on the OpEx team, we hire many co-op students, all from normally like engineering programs. So whether they're studying, mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, industrial, we've had some electrical. So really there's not any specific requirements. And we started our co-op program hiring co-op students probably about 4 or 5 years ago. So we've had lots of groups of co-ops. And let me tell you, we're almost never disappointed. The individuals are coming in with amazing ideas. They're super, tech savvy. Their Excel skills are amazing. And they're really passionate and really energetic. And so we love it. And so we literally have, in addition to those 1 or 2 full-time continuous improvement engineers or OpEx engineers that we mentioned, we also hire one co-op. So they're basically called a continuous improvement engineering co-op or OpEx engineer co-op. And we have one at each facility. So they basically are able to learn from the full-time who have maybe, between 1 and 3 years experience, or 1 to 5 years experience. So they're learning from them and they're also working on very valuable projects. So they themselves will help support on some of that, as an example, doing some sort of performance reports for the manufacturing plants. They're also assisting and working on projects, doing data capture, doing data analysis, making improvements. One of the things we're very proud of is that our co-ops are not treated like co-ops, oh, you're just a co-op. Let me just hand you a bit of work to keep you busy for the next 4 months or 8 months. No, no, because there's such a demand for work and tasks and commissioning and action. We need every resource that we can get. So right away, after about 2 weeks, everyone forgets that individual is even a co-op. They're treating them as if they're a full-time team member. Which means that there's responsibilities. There's expectations, there's responsibilities, they're being challenged. And the feedback that we get from the co-ops is always amazing because they're like, wow, I've grown a lot. I've matured a lot here. You guys are actually trusting, you're trusting me with the analysis I'm doing. You're counting on me. I'm adding value. And they really, really value it. We've had many co-ops come back and extend their terms, very common. And we've even had, we have 2 full-time engineers right now who started as a co-op. So they started as a co-op. They worked for 8 months at different facilities. And then we really liked them. They really liked the organization, and the timing worked out that, we had openings at that time. And we connected right away, said, we want you back, and they wanted to be back. And so they started full time, and now they're doing really, really well.
Yeah. Saeid, in the QA department, same sort of thing. You hire co-ops and.
Exactly, same thing is happening at the QA department. So usually each term we have 4 to 5 QA. One of them goes to customer care team, the other 4 goes to the facilities, and we treat them exactly the same as QA technicians. So they go through the similar training that we do for the new hires, 2 to 4 weeks, depends on how fast learner they are. And exactly same thing as Jason said. Actually, I have 4 QA technicians right now, which has started as a co-op last year, if I'm not mistaken, 18 months ago. And they went back to school, they finished their school, they came back. And one of them recently actually was promoted to the QA specialist. So from QA tech, she was QA co-op, then she went back to school, she finished her school, came back, hired as a QA tech. 6 months later, she applied for QA specialist, and she's a QA specialist, and she's helping us for US facilities integration as we speak. So she's doing fantastic job. And to be honest with you, every single of my QA co-op that we have had for last 2 years, if they come back, they're more than welcome to. We constantly have new hire, and every single of them did a fantastic job for us, and there is room, for them to be hired at FGF and grow.
It's always interesting to me that companies don't take advantage of the subsidies that are available to employers to hire co-op students. We're the same with our organization. We do hire a lot. And to your point, Jason, that you made, or you both made, they're not just in a role where, here's some filing, or here, just go away and do this and keep busy. They are an integral part of our team. And we forget that that they are full-time, and we treat them that way. And then you have to remind yourself that, maybe they're not so invested because they are a co-op. But then they shock you because they truly are invested, and they're like, feeling accountable and ownership over the projects that they're working on. So, and they bring so many amazing ideas, like you said, and new ways of doing things, and perspectives, and the digital savvy, and that kind of thing is uncomparable. So, I love that you do that. I guess the question I had as you were speaking, and Jason, if you want to go first, when you've taken those co-ops and their term comes to an end and there is that full-time opportunity, what did the ones that you hired full-time, what did they do differently? Like, what can they do to stand out? So what did those people do that you were like, we got to hire this person? And just in general, what can young people, students, new grads do to really stand out?
Yeah, great question. So essentially, the qualities we look for in whether it's a co-op or, during an interview process, if you're looking to hire people, is that you want to make sure that they're the right cultural fit, right? So that their personality will work well with FGF, that they're going to enjoy working at FGF, a very fast-paced, a lot of change. They're going to enjoy it. And that they're adding good value. So at FGF, one of the mottos is speed, change, and uncertainty, right? There's a lot of things changing. Obviously, you can probably understand just as we're describing the projects and the action, the change. There's a lot of change. It's not just a steady, everything's the same and it's been the same for the last 20 years. And no. There's a lot of change. So we look for people who are the right cultural fit, that have that energy as well, that drive. So very specifically, you want people who are driven, who are able to make an impact, and who, you know what I mean? Like are not afraid to get out there, meet new people, pick up the phone, make a phone call, right? And I know it's tough today. Everyone's so used to intimidated to pick up the phone and call people because everything's changing. But again, we want people who are energetic, who are driven, who build good relationships with people. For sure, if you're there and you have a big ego and you think you're all that, you're gonna rub people the wrong way. And they're not going to want to work with you. And that's not going to make you very successful. You could be the smartest person in the world, but if you're not able to work with other people, then you're not going to be successful. Mm-hmm. So really, we want people who are obviously, technically strong. You know what I mean? Like, you have to do a good job. You're humble. You're able to build relationships with people, and you're driven.
Yeah. Saeid, what would you add to that? I guess we're talking soft skills here, what they...
Jason said it well. So when it comes to FGF, FGF has its own culture. So the very, very first element for us is if that particular individual is a good fit for FGF culture. Then it comes to the technical knowledge, and also when it comes to the QA department, there's some specific personal requirements. For example, because we deal with different cross-functional team, you have to be able to build that relationship. Then attention to detail. This is one of the biggest elements when it comes to qualification of the QA team members. And as Jason said, and said it many times, the culture you have to meld with FGF culture. You have to be able to work with people, because FGF is about family. FGF is about teamwork. It's not about the individual. It's not about me or you. It's the whole team. So.
Mm-hmm. I like what you're right. It's fit, and I think read the room. Lots of new grads come out with this idea of what it's like to work in a professional environment, and maybe they're comfortable on video, or we do a lot of this now, the virtual, the Teams calls, but there's still that element of professionalism that's required. We have a camera policy. If you're working from home, you're still on camera if there's a meeting, and that kind of thing. So little things that people can be aware of. What skills in terms of and I know this will be different depending on the department, so maybe Jason, you want to go first. What would you recommend if someone has like a generic degree and they're interested in working for FGF or working in the food industry? What technical skills, what additional skill development would you encourage them to do? Would you recommend they look at, so that they do jump off the page to you? Perhaps you've got a pile of resumes. What would you like to see?
Yeah, sure. So, if someone is interested specifically in continuous improvement or OpEx, one, not like easy credential that they can do, but something that definitely stands out is get some sort of Lean or Six Sigma or Lean Six Sigma certification. There's a lot of different organizations, companies, universities, that you can do these courses in. And so I would recommend, if you're interested, go and get your Lean Six Sigma green belt. Okay. If you're really passionate, if you're in school and the school offers it, you can work towards getting your black belt as well. Try not to do, don't just do a Lean Six Sigma green belt course where you don't do a project, because, it's not a regulated body. So, we do try to look into individuals that have, learned the tech, learned some content, and then they've also applied it in a project. So that'll be something that'll really stand out on a resume. Definitely Excel skills are always needed. I heard someone from the IT department once joked that, even after a nuclear war, hopefully it never happens, there are two things that are going to survive: cockroaches and Microsoft Excel, because Excel is just so, even if companies are trying to avoid people using Excel and because they want to go through certain systems, Excel is always,
it's the go-to. Yeah.
It's a go-to. It's very, very important. So, and for us, we're doing a lot of, we do analysis, we do studies, and those Excel skills are really handy. So learning formulas in Excels, just go be specific. You got to know your VLOOKUPs. You got to know how to do pivot tables. You got to know how to do your basic, like sum-if equations, and, basically your basic kind of formulas. If you want to be more advanced and learn macros, that's going to be an added benefit as well for you. That's specific to continuous improvement. Obviously, different departments have different skills. If you want to be more on the IT side, I think learning Python programming is pretty popular and pretty common, as well as your other programming languages. But I'm definitely not an expert at that.
That's great advice. I appreciate it. Saeid, what would you add there in terms of skills?
So for QA, when it comes to the computer skills, so nowadays everybody works with computer, and as Jason said, Excel is really necessary for every job almost. And when it comes to QA, we work with different software. You don't have to be a computer savvy, but you have to be good with computer. Especially, we use different, softwares. So you have to be good with computer. Besides that, basically any food safety and quality related course, specifically HACCP, PCQI, it's a good bonus. So you get a very good understanding of the requirement, the concept of the quality and food safety department. You learn a lot if you go through the HACCP and PCQI training. In addition, there are different training, risk assessment, any GFSI training like BRC, uh, SQF. That would help a lot. But as I said, the fundamental is you be good with computer. Also, the basic of food safety and quality practices like HACCP and PCQI.
And Saeid, what skills or personal attributes would you say are sort of essential for you to be successful in your job?
Being a good team player, attention to detail, and as Jason said, especially when it comes to FGF, to be humble. So you have to work with very, very different departments, and every department has its own priority. So you have to be able to work with everyone. So sanitation has its own priorities, Apex team has its own priorities, maintenance has its own priorities. So if you want to go and ask for anything, you have to be able to be humble, and you ask in a nice way, and you should be able to work with the team. So that's one of the probably must element for QA departments, because as I said, you deal with different departments, almost every single department.
Mm-hmm. Jason, same question for you. Personal attributes and skills that make you good at your job.
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on it earlier. Like, I mean, those attributes that I was describing that we look for in the co-op role, in the OpEx engineering role, or even if you're a manager, a director, or a VP, I think all of those skills apply, right? So being a good communicator, that's something that's also a skill that, like, I think we want to make sure that people keep working, right? Is like the art of like writing a nice, concise email. That's something that we've actually invested in training at FGF to help like retrain individuals, because there's so many emails, there's so much information flowing that if you're like, in order to communicate your message clearly and concisely, it takes a bit of effort. You have to be aware of what you're writing. So yeah, communication skills is really important. Being technically strong, that willingness to learn, that interest, that desire to improve, those are some of the qualities that really stand out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, if you could do it all over again, Jason, would you choose the same path for yourself?
100%. So, yeah. 100%. It's been 9 years at FGF. People ask me, "Oh my gosh, that's a long time at the first company out of school. Like, don't you want to explore other companies or whatever?" And I was like, why would I want to explore other companies? I'm being challenged every day. There's growth opportunities. There's change. There's things happening. It's one of the fastest growing organizations in Canada. I'm very, if I was doing the same job every day, absolutely, you get tired of it. I think we're all like, part of all of our personalities is that we want to try new things. We want to learn. But that's one of the best things about FGF is that I felt I've been challenged. I've been put into training programs. I've had professional coaching as well, and mentorship, and Saeid as well, right? So there's unleashing your potential, like he mentioned. All of our team leaders go through different levels of coaching and mentorship, and it helps us grow and mature. And this coaching and mentoring has even helped with my life outside of work as well. Understanding about my personality, understanding about others' personalities. So as an example, your spouse potentially at home, understanding different personalities and how they work together. Mm-hmm. I found it really beneficial. So absolutely, I would redo it in an instant.
Saeid, same question for you. Would you change anything? Or if not, like, if you wouldn't change anything, sorry, carry on.
I think
I'm going to let you answer. I've got other questions and I'm looking at the time, but I'm going to let you answer.
So for people who know me, I think they don't need to ask this question for me, because FGF is a perfect match with my personality. This speed, change, and uncertainty, this is my personal life too. So I like this craziness. I like, to keep going, and my day-to-day activity would be different, because I am a very, very active person. In my personal life, I'm a very active person too. we've been in Canada for 15, 16 years, and I changed my houses 6, 7 times. So you can tell that the company culture matches with my personal, preferences. So I love it. I don't want to sit somewhere. I just want to change my, not career path, my day to day. I like to be different from the day before. I like to study. I like to learn more. They provide me with all those resources and nothing else. Definitely, I haven't been looking. I'm not going to be looking for a job. I'll stay at FGF till my end of my career because I love it.
And would you say you have balance? Because I know that the lines get muddied when people work from home, especially after COVID, that everybody started working from home, or lots of people that weren't out in the food industry because people in the food industry still had to go to work by and large. But that comes up a lot in questions, in small groups with students and grads. Do you have that balance? Would you call it work-life balance?
So again, if you're asking me, I think it's a little bit wrong question for me because I go for vacation. Actually, I just came from vacation yesterday. I was in Greece for 2 weeks, but when I was in Greece, I was in touch with my team. So I don't feel that my team is my work team. This is my family. Sometimes they say that, why you keep, texting us? We are fine. We are fine. I said, okay, when I go for vacation, I called my son. How he is doing. You guys are the same. You guys are my kid. So as I said, that FGF and work at FGF is a part of my personal life. So I think that's a wrong question for me. I don't know about Jason. I love it. I don't think I'm working. I think this is my life. And doesn't matter where I am, what time it is, I love to be involved.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think so specific. I know there's a lot of interest about this kind of like work from home, work in the office, hybrid models, and everything. So I think just like many companies, FGF is trying to figure out where do we land. So obviously, pandemic hits. Any role that can work remotely was moved to remote right away. So as an example, those in IT, boom, okay, no problem. You're set up with your computer at home. You're working remotely. It's a piece of cake, easy. In manufacturing and those support teams that are supporting manufacturing, you need to be on site. And remember, food manufacturing during a pandemic is a critical business, right? Like literally when the shelves are running empty and there's no more bread on the shelves, we are the ones producing more bread, trying to fill the shelves, right? With making naan and making muffins and making croissants and making all kinds of other delicious baked goods. So our manufacturing never stopped during the pandemic. And in the continuous improvement team, because we're supporting manufacturing, we are also supporting on the floor manufacturing. So now as time goes on, to see where it ends up landing in terms of, I think it'll end up being certain teams will have different hybrid models. Some teams are going to be fully in the office every day. Other teams work, if your preference is to work remote 4 out of 5 days and 1 day a week you're coming into the office, I think that's going to be fine as well. That might be more on the IT side. In manufacturing, it's more, in the plant. And there's going to be many other teams that are maybe going to be some sort of hybrid in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are approaching 3 o'clock, but I wanted to end by giving you each the same question. Saeid, maybe you want to go first. What's the best piece of career advice you were ever given? From a mentor, from a family, friend, and anything? Best piece of advice?
For food manufacturing, nobody regrets coming to food manufacturing because this is the safest industry across the world. So if you work in food manufacturing, you're always safe. You always have job, and you shouldn't be afraid of losing your job no matter what. And when it comes to FGF, this is fast-growing company. We always have hiring, and for whoever wants to grow and learn, I can tell this is the best company.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And Jason?
With lots of information and support to go to. They promote. We talk about it, I think, a couple of times that unleashing your potential, and there are lots of good programs for people who wants to grow.
grow professionally. That's awesome. Last word to you, Jason.
Yeah. Just words of advice. I mean, I think focus on the soft skills. I think although the world is becoming so technologically advanced, and you know what I mean, it's teams and all everything, we are still human at the end of the day, and we still crave those social interactions. And so I think my advice would be to keep always, stay focused on those soft skills, right? So communication skills, making eye contact, being comfortable, in an interview, being comfortable presenting, right? Those oral skills, because even though things keep changing and evolving, those old school skills are still very, very relevant, and they're still super, super important. So don't forget about the soft skills. Keep focusing on them. They will always, and building relationships with people, right? That will never get.
They'll never go out of fashion.
It'll never go out of style.
Exactly. That's amazing advice. It's so true. As a recruiter, I 100% agree with what you both have said. And we're at the hour. This has been awesome. I so appreciate your time. We couldn't inspire and mentor the next generation of food and beverage industry professionals without people like yourself joining us on these types of sessions. So we really appreciate it. You really don't understand the industry unless you hear from people inside of the industry. And this is what we're trying to bring to the forefront. So thank you for your time. And you'll see this shared on all different channels, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. And please feel free to share with your own networks. And again, thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much. Have
a great day. Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.